All right, let's set the scene. The date is January 30th, 1991. We're high in the skies over Iraq, and two fighter jets are about to go head-to-head in a fight that honestly should have been over in seconds. In one corner, you've got the Iraqi MiG-25 Foxbat. I mean, this thing is a Soviet relic built a full 20 years earlier. It's considered totally, hopelessly outdated. And in the other corner, the American F-15 Eagle. This is the apex predator of the skies, the most advanced state-of-the-art lethal fighter jet on the entire planet. This wasn't supposed to be a fair fight. It was supposed to be a turkey shoot. But what happens next? Well, it just isn't supposed to be possible. So how on earth did we get here? To really get what's going on in this impossible showdown, we need to rewind the clock a few months. It all kicks off with a desperate, last-ditch gamble by what was left of Saddam Hussein's shattered air force. So you remember, Saddam invades Kuwait back in August 1990, and the world responds. By January 91, coalition forces unleashed the biggest air assault since the Second World War. I mean, they just systematically took apart Iraq's air defenses. The whole Iraqi Air Force was in total chaos. So, facing complete annihilation, Saddam makes this wild call on January 26th. He tells his remaining pilots to run for it, to flee to neighboring Iran. And just like that, a mad dash begins. You have these Iraqi pilots literally streaking across the desert, flying just feet off the ground, desperately trying to sneak under the coalition's incredibly powerful radar network. It was a ridiculously dangerous move. But here's the absolutely crazy part. At first, it actually worked. By January 28th, an unbelievable 82 Iraqi planes had made it to Iran. The coalition commanders were just stunned. This wasn't a trickle. This was a full-on evacuation. So, in response, the coalition basically sets up a virtual wall of F-15s patrolling the border 24/7. The door was officially slammed shut. But Saddam wasn't done. He had one more idea. He was going to try and smash right through that wall. And for that, he needed a battering ram. And what was that battering ram? The MiG-25 Foxbat. Now look, this plane was a product of the 1960s. It was heavy, it turned like a boat, and its radar was terrible. But it had one thing going for it: raw brute force. The Foxbat was the fastest combat aircraft ever built, and it carried these absolutely enormous R-40 missiles. It was less of a dogfighter and more of a guided missile that happened to have a person inside. And you know, this old jet had already pulled off some surprising stunts. On the very first night of the war, a Foxbat actually shot down an American F-18. In another fight, two of them managed to dodge 10 missiles fired by F-15s and just got away clean. Saddam noticed. This was his plane. This was his battering ram. So the Iraqis cooked up this really clever plan. The idea was to wait for the American F-15 patrol to split up for refueling. The moment they saw that vulnerability, they'd send in two MiG-25s from opposite directions, a classic pincer move. The goal was to lure the F-15s into a trap and ambush them. Which brings us to the main event, the afternoon of January 30th. Iraqi ground control thinks it has a target, and two MiG-25s scramble into the air. The trap is about to be sprung. The pilots scream up to 42,000 feet, they start their pincer move, and one of them fires a missile at absolutely nothing. It was a false alarm, a ghost on the radar. Total anticlimax. The pilots turn around, probably pretty disappointed, and start to head for home. But here's where it gets interesting. While their target might have been a ghost, the MiGs themselves were very real. A US E-3 Sentry, that's a big AWACS radar plane, spots them. Just as the MiGs are turning back, Iraqi ground control suddenly sees the real F-15s. The order comes crackling through, turn back and engage. At that exact same moment, the American Sentry is frantically screaming a warning to its own pilots. Two bandits incoming hot. So forget the clever pincer plan. This is now a head-on collision course. You have the two MiGs at 42,000 feet slamming the throttle to Mach 2. 7,000 feet below them, the two F-15s whip around to face the threat. We're talking about four jets hurtling towards each other at a combined speed of over 3,000 miles per hour. American Captain Bob Heehaman gets the first lock. He fires a Sparrow missile, and nothing. It just doesn't ignite. A complete dud. So the Iraqi pilot, Captain Samurra, he returns the favor. He launches one of his gigantic R-40 missiles. As Heehaman yanks his F-15 into an evasive maneuver, the R-40 explodes nearby. Shrapnel just rips through the F-15's left engine. An F-15 has been hit. At the same time, the other American pilot, Captain Tom Dietz, is going after the second MiG. He fires his first missile, it fails to light. He tries a second one, it fails to even detach from the plane. So he tries a third missile, it also fails to light. 3 missile attempts, 3 catastrophic failures. You can't make this up. The whole thing just dissolves into chaos. Missiles are flying, planes are juking, alarms are screaming in the cockpits. In the end, with their weapons totally failing them, the Eagle pilots decide they've had enough. They break off and run for it. The MiGs turn and retreat west. The fight's over. And you've got 2 perfectly fine MiGs flying away from 1 damaged F-15. It was a draw, at best, for the Americans. I mean, just think about that. These Iraqi pilots had just gone nose-to-nose with the most feared fighter jet in the world, and they flew away. This whole incident is a brilliant and frankly surprising lesson in what happens when superior technology just isn't enough. Now, of course, the story you heard afterwards depended entirely on who you asked. Iraq immediately claimed this massive victory. They were sure they'd shot down an F-15. The United States, on the other hand, publicly denied that one of their planes was even scratched. But behind the scenes, it was a different story. The U.S. military was shaken. Their multi-million-dollar, state-of-the-art missiles had failed over and over again against a 20-year-old jet. It was a serious, serious wake-up call. Now, for Iraq, this was really the last gasp. The war was over just a few weeks later. Kuwait was liberated, and those 100-plus jets that made it to Iran, yeah, they were seized and never given back. Iraq's Air Force was finished. So this one dogfight didn't change the outcome of the war, but it's still a pretty stunning story of how things can go spectacularly wrong. And it leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. In an age where we rely so much on our advanced technology, how much does a clever, surprising strategy still matter? Well, it seems that on January 30th, 1991, it mattered a whole lot.